role for TPM with the Salesforce administration. So yes.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess I'll give you a little bit of context about how this whole process works with Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, the initial phone screen. Everything goes well here. After this, you may or may not have a conversation with the hiring manager, who is also my manager.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, things move on to what's called the Amazon Loop. I'm sure you've heard of this before, but essentially just like a series of interviews. And then after that, the team will get together and like have a chat, and things a decision will be made from there. But today, I want this to be super informal. I don't want it to be like nerve-wracking or scary or anything like that. I just want us to like have a conversation.
Sure.
And I'll start off, with some questions about things I see on your resume, and then I have like some kind of standard Amazon type behavioral questions that we can get to those. And then at the end, I want to leave time for you to ask questions to me. So I'll try to leave, maybe like 10 minutes there. That way you have a chance to ask anything you want to clarify about the team, the structure, who we are, what we do, that sort of thing. So just quickly starting off, I'll kind of let you know about me. So I am Tyler. I am a TPM on what we call the NASCAR team.
Okay.
Which is NASCAR is an acronym that stands for North America Stores Customer Account Relationship. Basically, it's a fancy acronym for a Salesforce org for specifically first-party vendors on the retail business. So think like Amazon.com. Name brands that you might find on there like Nike, Samsung, anything like that, that would be considered first party because they sell directly on Amazon rather than, like Metalli's store that sells, all kinds of branded stuff. That would be third party. So we're first party. Like I mentioned, I'm a TPM on the team. I originally was hired on to support the rollout of our Salesforce org to the Australian retail market. So I worked closely with Australian stakeholders. Got to go there in February to do the initial launch and onboard everybody. I guess a bit of background for me. I was born and raised in Texas. Went to Texas A&M University as a electrical engineer. Lived in Dallas for 10 years. I do see UTD on your resume. Which is
Yeah, 10 years in Texas is too much.
Well, I was there for much, much longer than that. But I lived in Dallas for 10 years. I worked in Richardson, right down the street from UTD.
Okay, I know that street.
Yeah. So I was originally a firmware engineer. So I worked at Texas Instruments for a while there in Dallas, and then was working for Harman International, which just does like, JBL audio type stuff in Richardson as an embedded firmware engineer right down the street from UTD. So great school, worked with a lot of smart people that went to school there. So cool to see that on your resume. So after that, I kind of got involved in Salesforce, and that's how I ended up here. So that's a bit of a background in myself. Do you want to just kind of give me the rundown on who is Mithali?
Yeah, sure. So, as you know, I'm Mithali. I have spent the last 6 years working with the Salesforce ecosystem, both as an administrator and the business analyst. And I have worked with 2 reputed companies, that is Cognizant and Infosys. While I was with those companies, I managed Salesforce org, platform hygiene, ensure the data quality, even built the automation where we utilize the flows, process builder, and even the app exchange products. I hold 2 Salesforce certification. One is platform app builder, and the second one is Salesforce administrator. which really helped me strengthen my technical foundation. And while I was at Cognizant to get the certification, you have to complete some trailhead modules to get that promo code. So yeah, by that I really got a lot of knowledge and really helped me in the real world project. So as you know, I've done my master's in business analytics with AI from the University of Texas at Dallas. So, which means I approach projects with the mix of technical skills and a little bit of data driven decision making. So yearly, I have been collaborating with sales, operations, support, and IT stakeholders, where we used to gather requirements, alignment on priorities, and making sure we deploy something that meets their requirement. Even I have managed the project from the start, like from the creation to deployment. We did the scheduling testing, conducting user training, and implemented basically adoption of tracking so we can measure the impact of changes. Basically, I worked on the audit logs as well. And the best part about this role is like I can work on both sides. Like when it comes to technical, I can build and configure system. And when it's the people side, where I can talk to stakeholders, understand their challenges, and make sure the solution works for them. So yeah, this is all about me.
Cool. Um, so I want to dive deeper a little bit on a couple of things.
Yeah.
There is mention in your resume about defining KPIs, and you also just mentioned adoption tracking and how you measure the impact of those changes. Can you talk to me a little bit more about, you know, what types of KPIs you use to define success in some of your projects? How did you come up with those KPIs, and what mechanisms do you use to track those KPIs to know if what you built is actually something that's impacting end users?
Yeah, sure. So basically, working on KPIs means that I have used various kind of tools to find the use of those KPIs in the project. So initially, we have kind of integrated with the third party runtime. So defining the clear KPIs, that fractional impact is something I am very much focused to ensure that saves a solution that truly effective at Cognizant. Like while I was working at Cognizant, whenever is involved in the healthcare, the automation project, a primary KPI for success that increased the claims processing efficiency. We measured this directly by comparing the time and resources required to process the claims before and after a Salesforce implementation. And over there, we saw about a 15% increase in efficiency by using the measuring the KPIs. And similarly, when engineering automation saw provider onboarding, a key of KPI was also a reduction in manual work, which we measured by comparing the manual effort involved before and after the automation. So yeah, and also we started deeply understanding the business problem that desired, I mean, which was desired outcome for claims processing. And while all this, the pain point was the time and the effort involved. So naturally, efficiency was the paramount for the manual work, and the goal was to, free up the resources, making the reduction in manual effort a direct measure of success. So we would often gather user feedback through interviews and surveys to identify specific bottlenecks and their pain points, which then helped us to quantify what success would actually look like. So yeah, these were some of the points I have used in my while working with the Cognizant with Trizato project.
Gotcha. Okay. So Cognizant that's a consulting firm, is that correct?
It's a service-based company.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And so this problem of wanting to reduce the time spent or increase efficiency for processing claims, Is this a problem that you guys identified, or they kind of came to you and said, hey, we have this use case where, there's a lot of manual work here and we want to try to drive efficiency gains here. How did that conversation go? Is that something that you guys brought up or they brought to you?
Okay, so yes, this we identified. So basically, at the Cognizant, I was working with the Riser project. It's a healthcare automation project. The problem was reducing time spent on efficiency, and it for claims processing were identified in partnership. And they actually there when the sprint was ending, we were sometimes you're facing a time issue while the deploying in the production, so that concerns our business teams as well. So we facilitated detailed requirements gathering this session, and even we conducted a thorough gap analysis. So through this process, we understood that the existing normal process, the bottleneck they face, and even we were facing at the key, the operational pain points, such as the lengthy time, even resources were consumed in claims processing. So while we were underlining this issue was there, so we collaboratively identify it as a problem we have to solve through Salesforce implementation, and we have also done the automation flows through that. That was the issue we were facing. The manual work was making the time, extended, and it was actually making an issue in the production time when we were deploying into production.
I see. Okay. Cool. So also, just looking at your resume, you mentioned implementing CI/CD pipelines. Can you talk to me about, I guess, the tools that you're familiar with in terms of deployments? I see you call out Salesforce DX and Git. Are you familiar with or have experience with other deployment tools like GearSet, or have you primarily used Salesforce DX, Git? Just talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'll frankly speak, we have not used that much of third party, but we were more rely on the change sets. And
okay.
Yeah, this was, primarily we were mostly working on the change sets, because when it comes to deploy any flows, any process builders, or any workflows, we were directly deploying from the change sets. We were not relying on the third party because the first issue was we were healthcare project, so we were not taking any risk of any, taking because in the healthcare project we have the details of the patient, and we cannot take a chance that a detail should go out. So that was the main reason we were using change set, and that is more favorable. You don't have to pay extra for the third party. Like if even if I use a service now or something like that, we have to pay extra cost to that. And yeah, if I talk about, I have used Salesforce DX and Git for the deployment. I have used, that was not the project at Cognizant. I've used in the early company like Infosys. I have been, my hands-on experience with deployment tools had been thorough with Salesforce DX. At Cognizant, not use at Cognizant, but more on Infosys, because as I told you, my project was on patient work, so they were not okay with that. And yes, so familiar with the standard change sets. As I told you, I have worked also using earlier roles. For example, when deploying the flow fixes or pick list value updates, where there also I've used it. While my diet, as I told you, my diet experience isn't with the Gear Set or Copado, but I have read everything because you should know things, right? So
sure.
So yeah, this is the reason we were going for the change sets.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely with the customer data, it's very sensitive, and there are a lot of security hurdles that we have to deal with internally at Amazon related to security as well. So that definitely makes sense. Cool. So I guess is there? You mentioned flows a couple of times now. I also see things like platform events on your resume. Can you talk to me about something that you've built within Flow that you think was either particularly cool or solved kind of a complex problem that you were proud of?
Yeah, sure. In the like, I actually solved a complex problem where we have used the customized flow in that case. The challenge was in the running provider onboarding process. So previously, this was involved a lot of manual steps, data entry into various systems, and there was a back and forth communication across different departments because of the legal credential credentialing. Before that, I just want to clear one thing, like the the project I joined was the creation time. Like, it was not a mid of project. It was the starting point. So I was also involved when workflows, we were removing the workflows and going with the flow. Like, workflow got outdated, right? So whatever workflows were there, we were making all that workflows into flows. So just clarifying, like, I was with the starting of the project. So it was not a mid one. So yeah, sorry to interrupt with that thing. uh, I was telling, different departments like credential, legal, and finance, so it got very slow and it got very prone to errors, and we were created a significant bottleneck. So I had experience with Infosys as well, so I proposed, like, let's go with the I engineering at automation solution. So that having a leverage that flows, and we can combine with the apex for more complex logic, and we can also go with the lightning web component with the user interface. The cool aspect was how the flow are dynamically guided users through the onboarding steps based on the type of provider and the specific servers they would offer. So the dynamic data entry was working instead of the users seeing a cluttered pages with all possible fields. So Flow used the dynamic forms, uh, which I actually learned and explored on my own to implement to show a height relevant field. So it's basically like, if any sales team is coming, they will only see the sales form, right? If any financial team is coming, they will be seeing only their financial form. So yeah, this was the I mean, that time, that was the real complex decision where you have to separate all the branches with the help of the dynamic forms. So yeah, I worked on that.
Gotcha. Okay, so was this something that you built yourself from scratch, the screen flow?
Yes.
This was just something that was used by like internal Salesforce users, right? This wasn't exposed to actual like healthcare customers. Is that right?
Yeah. So as I told you, our project was new. So everything was earlier data entry. First, we were, by the help of the data loader, we were loading everything to Salesforce. Everything was earlier from the, I mean, everything was we used to work with the workflow. But that time, workflow got outdated. Then we converted everything into flows. So at that time, that at 21, we had did a lot of R&D as well. Like, I everything was new to me that time, because earlier also we were working with the workflows, and we don't have that much knowledge of flow. So while doing the trailhead modules and everything, we did a lot of R&D. We did with the help of a Google. That time there was no chat GPT, so we have to do a lot of R&D. So yes, this was from the beginning. I mean, the start of the flows. I was in this.
Gotcha. And this was at Cognizant, right?
Yeah, this was at Cognizant.
Did you build something with platform events? I see it called out here. Was there like a specific use case for using platform events?
Can you repeat which events? Sorry, your platform events, right?
Yeah, so under the technical skills section of your resume, I see platform events, and I was curious if you have come across a use case where you had to use platform events.
Yeah, actually, your platform events got a little bit cut, so I didn't. I repeated again. So I would say I've actually I have worked on the platform event. So I have explored the user cases and scenarios where we needed to trigger action or update records in response to change in external system. For instance, and in discussion and around improving a Salesforce to marketing platform integration, platform events, and it came up a potential solution for near real-time lead syncing and providing more robust and scalable alternative to that traditional API, polling for certain data flows. So while the immediate solution was that specific, so integration was an API credential refresh at that time. The decision highlighted my understanding of the platform and its potential for more advanced element and driven architectures. So uh, these were the things I have done in the platform events. I mean, the time and everything.
Sure. Okay. Cool. That sounds great. So I guess I'm gonna move to kind of like a couple like standard Amazon behavioral questions. Um,
Yeah.
uh, can you give me an example of a time when you were not able to meet a commitment? What was the commitment, and what were the obstacles that prevented you from succeeding?
Okay. So there was a time at Cognizant. I mean, the point is I have lot of exposure at Cognizant more as compared to Infosys.
Sure.
Because I was working with the Trizeto US team, and they were really brilliant talent over there. So I have learned a lot. A lot. They were very senior, so I have learned a lot from them. So that's why my examples would be more on Cognizant. So yeah, uh, uh, there was one particular instance where I wasn't able to fully meet a commitment as initially planned. It involved a significant project at Cognizant, a full automation of a complex lead assignment process in Salesforce. So the commitment was to deliver a system that would automatically assign leads to the correct sales. I mean, within the seconds, and completely removing the need for an manual human intervention. So the goal was to roll this out across all sales team at once, and aiming for the complete immediate, overhaul of the lead routing. So the idea was to save the sales team and consider their time and eliminate the manual routing entirely the obstacles and what prevented success. I designed an advanced flow with multiple decision branches based on criteria like lead source, territory, product interest. And in our initial testing process, this flow was performing very well. Okay. And then that actually gave me the confidence that we can proceed with this, and we simultaneously roll out to all the sales team. The point was that I have only checked with the one sales team. I have not checked with the all the sales team. However, the primary obstacle that prevented us from succeeding with this was full immediate rollout was insufficient, and was testing for edge cases, particularly those involving missing or incomplete data. After it went live, we quickly discovered there were numerous scenarios where leads went unassigned because the critical data points, which the flow logic depends, I was like the missing of the data. Okay, there was a situation we hadn't adequately accounted out in our test data while I was testing on the sandbox. At that time, it was working perfectly fine. Our test scenarios with the complexity of the lead sources and the varied quality of the data coming in from different channels meant that testing wasn't comprehensive enough to clear all the possible real world. So at that time, we decided to roll out all the changes, whatever we have done with the sales team, because it got failed, and we had to revert the changes, and we go back to the drawing board for the more robust solution. And this experience was significant learning curve for me, and even highlighting the balance of bold ideas. I mean, you get hyper like, okay, it's working, let's go ahead. No, you need to be patient, you have to be balanced with your bold ideas. And that time I made the major mistake. We subsequently reintroduced the automation, but by region. For earlier I was going for the full sales team, but this time we went for region to region with strong validation rules. We implemented upstream to prevent missing data from causing failures. So yes, this was the issue I faced while working on it.
A great example and very relevant to our team, because our team is global.
Yes.
So we have a lot of times where, we develop features based on feedback primarily from one region, and then we want to roll it out to other regions, and we have to go and check in with them to make sure that the use case is still valid, that everybody's kind of tracking the same information, and figure out, where we need to tweak things a little bit just so that it's applicable to those regions as well. So yeah, very, very similar use case there.
Yes.
Awesome. Can you tell me about a time when a customer came to you, and this is something that happens a lot on our team, they come to you asking for something, and the more you kind of talk about them, you realize as the Salesforce expert that what they're asking for won't actually address their need. So have you ever had a scenario where a customer has come to you and asked for something that you knew wouldn't address their actual root cause of their need, and how did you approach that situation?
Yeah. So as I told you, like I used to do service interviews with the stakeholders as well. So there was a very common and crucial scenario when I am a Salesforce admin and we were dealing with the customers. Uh, First of all, we have to be a very careful listener, a deep dive into the underlying problem, and then the ability to present more efficient solution. There was a issue at Cognizant where the business team approached me with a request to rename a specific field and change its data type, on the opportunity object. Yeah. So the immediate goal was to align the field presentation with the new internal terminology they were adopting, and we believed that this change was a direct solution to some reporting discrepancy and they were experiencing. So, however, as a Salesforce expert, my immediate thought was that a direct data type change, especially on a core object level opportunity, was inherently risky and might not address that root cause of the reporting issue, because the main reason also was that that object was already on the live. Now they were asking to change the data type, so that was a big risk. Okay, so it could break the existing reports and dashboard or even the sharing rule. And my concern was that they were focusing on the superficial change without fully understanding the cascading impact. Like if we delete something, like everything will get deleted, exploring if a simpler or very less disparate solution exited. What I need and one listen actively was promote deeper instead of immediately pushing back the, whatever I listen instead of carefully, and they wanted me the field renamed what specific problem they were trying to solve with the data type change. It turned out that the primary pain point was the certain reports were showing the incorrect aggregation, and actually the field name was making the confusion between them. So, to identical potential risk was, I politely explained to the team that a direct production change to the field data type, especially without thorough testing. Uh, I mean, there was a time people have suggested me, it's just a change of field name, let's do it directly in the production. And that is a very big risk. You shouldn't do that. Uh, uh, I know it will take time, but we should go with the testing process, then only the production part. And these, I mean, three dive deep into dependency. I then proactively checked with reports, dashboard, and even the validation rules were linked to that particular field using Salesforce setup, search, and we did a quick metadata report. This revealed that two key sales reports were heavily reliant on the field's current data type and its values. So there we make them explain we cannot change the data type. We'll keep the same field, but we'll only change the label name. And this achieved their primary goal of updating their terminology without altering the underlying data structure. So this was the breakout, I mean, they proposed and what we have given them. Because as a sales admin, they don't know the technical part. They just give you the out thing like, I want this. So we cloned the existing setup in this sandbox environment, and we demonstrated how the proposed data type change would indeed be break those two. Like, we properly explained why we cannot do this, why we are going with this solution, why we are just changing the name, and how these reports are interlinked. And yes, so this act as a consultant who understand these sales deeply, they were happy with this solution, and we were ready to go for this. So this was the issue we faced.
Gotcha. Okay, so things went from we need to change the data type to actually we can just solve this whole problem by changing
yes.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a very small issue, but if you are a business stakeholder, you see things very differently. But as a Salesforce admin, your mindset would be different. So there are two different minds of the stakeholders and you. You have been, how technically you have to work, and they are seeing from the outer things. So things get very different from their perspective and from our perspective. So you have to make them understand, like, okay, I got you. What's your point? We can do this as well. So we can take permission. I mean, for what we used to do, tell her, like, our sprint was of 14 to 15 days. So we used to, whenever any used to get complete, or it's going to the production, or live, we used to take a meeting. We used to keep we have a proper meeting. We share a screen and we show them that this is the feature we have made. Are you happy with this? Should we upload to the production? So we used to do this so that there should be not any outbreak in the production. So we used to do this, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's often something that we have to manage as well. Usually, the business, it's they're trying to solve a fire, right? And they're not looking, long term about, what does this look like 6 months from now, or any sort of dependencies, like you mentioned, the sharing rules and things like that. A lot of times, they're naturally, not quite aware of how things are interconnected. And while it may be a simple idea to them to just change the field type, a lot of times they're not generally aware of how what other implications are. So yeah, this is a very familiar problem.
Cool. If things are going roll out to production and big, I mean, if there's a failure, you have to bring back to the sandbox. Then there will be an issue. Like, you don't know, a lot of things are connected to each other. So that time you have to think patiently and sensibly what other solution could have been like that.
Yeah, makes sense. I want to touch on something that is in your resume. So you mentioned implementing CI/CD pipelines, reducing deployment time. That's great. Configured role hierarchies, profiles, and sharing roles to enhance security and reduce incidents by 10%. Can you talk to me about that metric, the 10%? Like, what kind of incidents were you experiencing, and how are you measuring this after the fact to be able to say that things have gone down by 10%?
Yeah. So basically, there was I used a couple of metrics and KPIs to find out the specific incident inside that. So the 10% reduction in incidents is a metric. And, I can proudly, because it reflects that impact on the operational stability and the security. This is how the 10% came. Earlier, we had access to related errors. These were quite common before our interventions. User would, report being unable to access certain records, object or functionalities, and they legitimately needed to be there for a role. leading to work stoppage, and also help the test tickets. We had an instance when user had broader Salesforce access than they needed for their role, posing a security risk. Uh, like I've told you about the dynamic form, so that was increasing incidence and would often manifest as a data visibility issues, and also that was unauthorized data manipulation, or simply, it was a frustration and we have lost the productivity due to incorrect permissions. And while less frequent, these were high impact incidents we were facing day to day. Okay, this issue came when this project got over and we were in the support after after we put some features on the production live. Then there's 5 to 6 days you have to be in a support. I have to see what incidents it's making wrong, or you have to be available for every time you get incidents were already there. So this would occur user when a user, due to overly broad access, modified or even deleted sensitive customer data because they have the access. For example, there was one scenario. A public retweet sharing setting in the sandbox showed how user could edit accounts, unrelated to their role. Okay, which is a big risk. These incidents were particularly challenging as they would lead to data integrity and the compliance concern, and also had the security audit findings. So this all by after correcting all these rules, sharing rules, manual rules, OWD profile rules, we started getting less incidents. That's the reason I said 10%, because when that reduced by 10%, there would be other issue with the validation or the report or dashboard. I'm just talking about the uh, this sharing rule and public rules. So by seeing the tickets, by checking with the matrix with the last sprint, I'm not talking about the whole project. I compared with the sprint wise. So with the comparison of the last sprint, that reduced to 10%. So that's how we calculated the metrics.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, that's something that again, since we're a global tool, we kind of have to manage that as well. What access do we give end users? Because we have everything kind of based on marketplace, whether it's US, EU, Australia, that sort of thing. And permissions is definitely something that's front of our mind to make sure that users don't have access to things that they shouldn't.
Yes. So yeah. So it's a very big service-based company. So a lot of incidents we used to see day to day, and our project Trizoto was around 400 to 500 users were there. So that's the reason we were getting so many tickets. That's the reason we were experiencing. There was a lot of exposure when a lot of users are there, because they bring new issues every day. So it's very good to solve new problems day to day in our day to day life. That's the reason you get a lot of exposure if you work on a very big MNC. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Can you tell me about a time where you uncovered a problem within your team? What was the problem, and how did you communicate it to both your manager, the rest of your team, and possibly even stakeholders if it impacts them?
Okay. So there was a time in our project, like that was directly impacting everyone, our business stakeholders, even us, and even our managers. So usually our sprint is of 14 to 16 days, one sprint. So what was happening? 6 to 7 days. I was working on the DevOps, and so in DevOps we have the user stories, and developers used to pick the user stories uh, to their name. So what was happening? The developers were taking around 6 to 7 days to complete the user story. Then that user story is going to QA, and then it was going into live. So QA was getting only 2 to 3 days to test, and then releasing into production. That so whenever any error used to came, now the developers were getting only 1 day to solve it, and even sorry, and even into release into production. And when it comes to error, when we need to show the features to the stakeholders, we were having very less time to make the changes before the release. So what I introduced, like I learned this thing from my previous company, from Infosys, like there should be a proper durations. First 5 days would be of the developers. If they are not able to complete within that 5 days, then all the developers will help that developer to complete that user story. Then we'll move it to the QA part. They will test. They will get at least 4 to 5 days uh, to make all the changes and report back to Dave that if any error is there, you can correct this within what. Now the developers are getting 2 days, and proper 3 days we are getting for the stakeholders to review, then release to our production. So we made a proper template for this. There were no on time, like we earlier it used to be, like because of the delays of the devs, we used to give productions at very late night, and that was also impacting a personal life, and that personal life was impacting our professional life as well, because we were not having a proper balance. So this template helped everyone. Our managers, they don't have to be the late night owl. We developers were having a proper concern time, like 5 days, and if there's no if they are we are not able to progress with our use story, we can take help from a manager or with the other colleagues or a peer team. The QAs are getting proper 5 days to test, to document everything, and 3 days for getting to our stakeholders, where they can point out if there are any pain points to them, that this feature I'm not liking it, can you change it to they are not liking any dynamic form of any field. So if any issue with the field, we can change at that time before pushing to production. So this is a very small issue, but this actually impacted everyone's life. So yeah, this was one thing. This is the one example I initiated in our company, and this is what I learned from my previous company. So this made everyone's life easy. Yeah, this was a very small issue, but that was a very big impact in our project.
Yeah, that makes sense. One quick question there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you leave 30 days for the stakeholders to kind of test and sign off on the feature.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had instances where you're doing your sprint, and I guess maybe before that, how often were you guys doing deployments? Was it like at the end of each sprint, or was it just whenever something was ready? What did that look like?
No, it was not after every sprint. It was 3 sprints. Like our 4 sprints make a one project release. It was like that. So we have a proper sprint planning. We were used to break into 3 to 4 sprints after, and we were not, as I mentioned you, we were not making a release after every sprint. We are not giving the, view up to our stakeholders after every sprint. After 3 sprints, because it takes time to build a button, a platform event, or to even if developers are there, there would be Apex classes, the triggers. So to build that, it takes times, right? So after every 3 sprints, we were giving proper video share scaling to our stakeholders. Then we were releasing it. So it was a month.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And was there ever times where you have this 3-day window for stakeholders to test, and they just don't, like they, for whatever reason, they, you reach out to them and you try to get them to test, but the participation from the business has really been low, and you don't really get that like final sign off from them. Have you ever had a time where you couldn't really just get somebody to sign off on something that they requested and you went and built?
Yes, we had this issue a lot of times, because the stakeholders are a bit moody.
Sure.
You have So that time, your communication skills, the way you talk, the way you have built the connection with the stakeholders, very important. I have learned this, you know, uh, it took time to learn how to make a connection with your stakeholders. Uh, so there should be a good connection. Like if any random person is pinging them, let's have an overview. They are not gonna say yes to it. You should, like a manager who is already be in touch with the stakeholders, they should be like, okay, now there's a release after 3 sprint, we have to check on it. And so as I told you in the last example, they told us the change of that field level after going live. So that time they were not available to check or to give us the overview. From that, even they also learned that we cannot do this, we have to be there. And from the errors and from the mistakes also, everyone learned. So and they were not only one stakeholders, they were 3 to 4. So if one is not available, the second person is available. So there's always a team, there's not only a one person. So if one person is not available, we can reach out to second person and then third person. So if not on the first day, second day, but third day, but if we talk about the third day, they are 110% they're available, because we somehow get into touch, we somehow tell, we send all. If they are not available by the call, even we used to send all the documents and screenshot which we have prepared while working on the user stories. So if any non-technical person will also see a document in overview, they'll get to know, okay, these are the changes, these are the platform events, these are the features they are going to upload. So we make a proper doc, we proper PDF, and we proper of all the screenshots are attached in the doc, and we send them before they will come onto a review. I mean, they come on a video call or screen sharing. So beforehand only they have everything on their hands. So yeah. So documentation is also very important.
Yeah. So I guess in some of the projects that you've done, I think we may have briefly mentioned this at the beginning of the call. You're defining the KPI metrics at the beginning of the project, and then once it's complete, do you have kind of like a regular cadence that you check in to see and make sure that the feature is getting used? Do you kind of have like fast follow meetings with the business who requested the feature to kind of make sure that the adoption is going well? Do they come back and say like, oh, well, adoption is low because of X, Y, Z, and then you guys iterate on the feature? What does kind of the post deployment life cycle look like for you?
Okay. So as I told you, like first there would be a testing sandbox, then we'll go, I mean, dev sandbox, then the testing one, then we go for the production sandbox. So this is how we follow a rule. And uh, so our initial KPIs were directly tied to these pain points where we used to improve our customer satisfaction, we reduced task completion time. So once the project was completed at the updated page layouts and guided flows were implemented, our regular cadence for checking features usage and the impact include the conducting surveys to directly gauge user sentiment. So we used to take surveys after every implementation. We take like at the starting we used to gather requirements. At the end also we used to take the interviews. We used to fill the service. Are they satisfied with our feature or not? Because customer satisfaction is really important to get you get a positive feedback. And after that, there is a support team in our backend where after the release of the feature, 8 to 10 days, our support team used to see. We used to check every incident. As I told you in the earlier example, that 10% was the reduced incident, because there's a support team. We try to reduce as many incidents as possible after the feature. I mean after the release, because it's sometimes, I mean, if you're on a very big project, there will be some errors after production. I mean production release. There will be
Sure.
0.1% also. Because it's a very big firm, it's a very big project. Maybe QA has missed, maybe in production line we didn't able to catch that. User will face those issues. So by that only we used to change, and we're not going to change directly on the production. Again, we'll go follow the same step. First, we're gonna developer sandbox, then the testing, then the production. So we're not never going to change directly on the production. We give 8 to 10 days to see what the incidents are there, and if there's major issue in the flow, we'll roll back our changes, and again we'll release with the help of the testing sandbox and QA inspection. So yes, we do all the surveys, we do all the interviews, and we make sure in the next release, if there's any issue, they are not liking any feature, we make that change and we release in the next sprint. So these were the KPIs we have to follow as the customer point of view as well.
Cool. Yeah. This is very relevant again to our team. Making sure that not only are our users actually using the feature, but
Yes.
They find if it's time savings or
Yes.
things like that. Just kind of touching base with them to make sure that we are, because things can get lost in translation sometimes. Like you mentioned, business will think differently than an admin will. So sometimes they ask for one thing and we build it, and it turns out that it doesn't actually do what they were looking for. So
Exactly,
always
yeah.
checking in is definitely a great thing. Cool. So we have about 8 minutes left. So I wanted to make sure, like I mentioned, that I leave time for you to ask any questions to me. So feel free. If you have any questions, happy to answer anything. It could be about the team, about the role, about Amazon in general. I will do my best.
Yeah, I'm very curious about one question. Like,
Sure.
I really want to know the culture of the team, like how it works, how the day-to-day life is, and even I want to know the pressure of the team. Like, I've been into a lot of pressure in my past companies, so I really want to know the culture, like how team acts, how things are in this team. So very eager to know that.
Yeah, so the team culture is actually really great. And so I've been with the team for, I think, 10 months now. So I joined in October last year. And, it was my first time being at Amazon. There's a lot of people at Amazon that they call boomerangs, meaning they were here at Amazon, they left, and then they came back. So this was my, first introduction to Amazon. And of course, you read a lot of things online about Amazon, and they'll work you to death and all that stuff.
Yes, that's the reason I asked.
Yeah. And it's totally fair call out. Like Reddit, for example, is really bad at people posting stuff that's negative about Amazon, and I can honestly say that has not been my experience whatsoever. Our team is really great. Our manager, so my direct manager is really great about making sure that we do have like a proper work-life balance. Her manager, who's my skip level manager, also same thing. He's really great about making sure that we maintain a good work-life balance, because they don't want anybody getting burnt out, because that's not good for anybody. The team in general is really great. It's a great mix of people. Lots of very good co-workers. We regularly do like happy hours, or we'll have like a team lunch. Fairly competitive ping pong tournament amongst the team going on. So if you're any good at table tennis, you'll definitely fit right in. We host once a quarter. We do kind of a team, what we call a team on site, which is really where we spend 2 or 3 days with the team.
Wow. That's a refreshment. After working for full quarter, you get a break. That's really cool.
Yeah. So once a quarter, we get together and we have like 2 or 3 days where we kind of go typically in a different building. So here in Seattle, there's I don't even know how many, 50 Amazon buildings or something. So we'll kind of get a change of scenery. We'll meet up at a different building, and then we'll kind of create like a war room where we get everybody in a room, and then we kind of plan for the next quarter, talk about like major things in the team. Sometimes we do hackathons if we have like a big problem that we want to collectively spend some time on solving. We'll split up into teams and try to come up with a cool solution. And typically we also include some sort of like fun team event in there. Not too long ago, we did a little sailboat trip out in Elliott Bay, right here in Seattle. So we were on the water for like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. We've also gone to like a Mariners baseball game. The whole team went out. So yeah, the culture of the team.
That sounds really fun. Yeah.
The retail business in general, because we have, of course, our stakeholders are the retail org, and we sit right next to a lot of the U.S. retail folks. Great people. Everybody wants to work hard, play hard. My Skip, so my manager's manager, also really great. He's really tries to protect our time as developers and stuff like that on the team. He specifically, because he's somewhat new to our team, we had a previous manager who left the company, and he joined the team, and he created something called No Meeting Wednesdays, where he blocks the calendar for all of us so that we can have some like heads down time, and where we're not like constantly interrupted with meetings while you're trying to work on something complex. Similarly, since Seattle is really dark for a lot of the year during the winter, he did no meeting Friday afternoons. That way, if it's Friday and either you need to get something done, heads down, you can do it. Nobody's going to put a meeting on your calendar Friday late. And very often, if it's Friday and you've got everything under control, nobody has issue with just like leaving early on a Friday and just enjoying the summer weather in Seattle. So the culture is really great. So if you're reading things online about Amazon, I can tell you 100% that has not been my experience.
I of course, it's Amazon, so I I just wanted to hear the culture, but the name Amazon is also a big thing, It's Amazon, so
5 million people or something like that globally. But yeah, the culture on this team in particular is really great. So nothing to fear there. Only good things for sure.
Oh, great to know that, really.
Yeah. So did you have any other questions?
That's it. So you work on the same team? Like we are all, you're taking the interview of the same team. Like I wanted to know that.
Yeah. So I'm on the team that this role is posted for. So our team structure is kind of changing a bit. Of course, not in terms of like headcount or anything. We're definitely expanding. We're always needing more people on the team because initially the NASCAR Salesforce org was originally built out for the U.S. retail, and we've been slowly expanding to other regions. We cover most of Europe now, Japan, Australia, Canada soon. So our team is growing, and we're always looking for talented people, and our team's slightly changing in that we're being less like regionally focused and more kind of a central team where, like I was hired on for Australia, but we're going to switch it up to where it's kind of everybody supporting everybody and not so much like you're Australia or you're Japan or whatever. It's just going to be the whole team working together. So we are at time. I want to make sure I respect your time. So if you have any other questions, I do not have a hard stop, so I'm happy to answer anything else that you've got.
I am done. I got to know what I really wanted to know. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. I think as far as like next steps goes, the recruiter will reach out to you. I think within a couple of days. Again, really appreciate your time. Great talking to you. And
thank you for giving me your time.
Yeah, no worries.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too, Mitali. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. See ya.